Before EQing, before loading up your compressors, you need to make sure that the levels coming into your mix are under control. Because if your multitracks are hitting the plugins too hard, you're slamming your master bus, you're making the process too hard than it's supposed to be. Let's talk about it. When you receive your multitrack, check the levels, check the inputs, the gain staging. That is very important. That is your key. That is where you start the mix from. Then the next stage is to control your gain. Why are we controlling the gain? Simply because when you hit your plugin too hard, at the end of the day, you end up having very, very hard time working with your mix. Now, look at the meters. Everything is almost zero. My master bus is clipping. At the end of the day, you have a problem. So, when we are here, we say, don't use the fader first. Don't use the fader first because the fader is for balancing your mix. So you need to go back and do your gain, clip gain, okay? That's where the signal that is driving everything, that is driving your plugin, that is driving your compressors, your limiters and what have you, it's coming from the clip itself. So that's where we start our gain staging. So if you have something that was recorded too loud, you have to control that before the fader, okay? So you make sure that you control the clip gain. Now, what level should you aim for? I would say there's no correct level. There's no minus 15, minus 20, minus 10. The kick drum is correct, perfect. So you cannot name or have a cheat sheet of each and every single thing happening. You just build around a certain element. For example, personally, I usually start with the kick drum and build everything around the kick drum in terms of gain staging. No plugins, just the volumes, just the levels to make sure that everything works in unity. So we've said we gain stage the tracks before balancing. Gain controls how the signals goes into the processor. That is the processing. The fader controls how the signal sits in the mix. The clip gain controls the signal that is going into the processor. The processor is your plugin, is your EQ, compressor, etc. Then the fader there controls how the mix sits. How the signal sits inside the mix. When you're gain staging, watch out for your buses and masters, okay? Because when you do the clip gain, then you move into the faders, you're done. Then now you have routed everything into its auxiliary buses and outputs. That is, for example, if you have drums, you put all the drums into an auxiliary drum send, okay? They say drum bus. Then you have your vocals in a bus. Then you have your backups in a bus. Then again, you move to that bus. Make sure everything is well balanced. Another very important thing, don't fix the volume of your master by pulling down the master fader. Okay, always the master fader stays at 0. If things are loud, go back to your multi-track, go back to your clip gain, start from the clip gain, come to the faders, go to your basses, make sure everything is well balanced and clean. Remember, this time round, no plugin engaged, just good balance with what you have, with the multi-track that you have. Okay, from the clip to the faders, balance them out, into the basses, balance them out. Don't touch your master out and your master bass, all right? Because at the end of the day, that master bass needs to give you a clear level. You need to judge based on the master level rather than judgment by pulling your master fader and thinking that the mix is good. So when you pull down your master fader, you're not really fixing anything at this stage. So stop pulling down your master fader. Just work with the multi-tracks. Work from bottom up. We call it bottom up, meaning your individual signals into the faders, into the auxiliaries, bass senders, and then you move into the master bass. So before I begin my mix, I have to make sure that my inputs are correct, no clipping, I have enough headrooms, because when now I start receiving the signal into the plugins, I need to enjoy the moments of loading up plugins and loading up everything. My plugins will be receiving very good, clean signal that is not pushing the plugin too hard. So now at the end of the day, everyone is working at their comfort zone. The input signal, input into the plugins, plugins to the fader feeding the mix basses, then the master bass. And then now at the end of the day, I'll make that mix loud using the master bass effects. One last thing, gain staging is not making everything sound quiet and soft and everything. Gain staging is making sure at every stage of the signal input, it's any plugin or any stage is receiving sensible loudness. You're not pushing too hard, you're not clipping. You're receiving or you're giving sensible loudness in such a way that the units that you're loading into your channel are going to process that signal the way they are meant to process the signal. Make sure you do great gain staging, and I'll see you in the next one.